Since so many newcomers to Hemisync are finding us by way of the now famous Department of the Army Intelligence document available on the CIA's website entitled Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process, or various videos and posts relating thereto, we figured it was time to extend a proper welcome and introduction to this audience, as well as to those that wish to dive deeper into Gateway Experience or approach it from a fresh perspective. The Hemisync Gateway Experience album series is indeed based on the programs that gave rise to the creation of the now famous document and traces its origins all the way back to the legendary Robert Monroe, who founded Hemisync along with Monroe Institute and authored 3 books on altered states of consciousness, including The Out-of-Body Experience. For purposes of these videos, I'll simply refer to the landmark 1983 document declassified in 2003 as the CIA Gateway Report. In the videos that follow, I will break down the report, provide some more recent scientific learnings, explore its implications, and introduce you to the exact Hemi-Sync exercises cited in the document, so that you can derive maximum benefit. We'll cover all the topics in the report in greater depth, including meditation techniques, astral projection, remote viewing, psychic spies, as well as understanding the physics and metaphysics that undergirds it all. We're giving much of this away for free. But if you find yourself enjoying the materials and want to go even deeper, be sure to check out the entire online course on the Hemisync website. There's a link in the description below. Let's get started. In the paper, the author, Commander Wayne McDonnell, relies on concepts borrowed from hypnosis, transcendental meditation, biofeedback, physics, metaphysics, and quantum mechanics. In particular, he references the biomedical models developed by Itzhak Bentov, a pioneer of the biomedical industry who was a scientist, inventor, and an early proponent of what came to be known as consciousness studies. All of this was part of a comprehensive effort commissioned by the Department of the Army's Intelligence Unit to understand Hemisync and the Gateway Experience. First, some brief background on Bentov himself. He didn't have much of an educational background, actually. He was a Czechoslovakian immigrant who worked mostly out of his basement lab and is best known for his many inventions, including the steerable catheter. He pioneered the biomedical engineering industry by founding Meditech, which later became Boston Scientific. Today, that is a $78 billion medical devices company, as of this recording. Now, he is perhaps less well known for also being a pioneer of consciousness studies and authored several books on the subject, including Stalking the Wild Pendulum, which is cited extensively in the CIA Gateway Report. Tragically, he died in a plane crash in 1979 at the age of 55. In reading his books and in looking at his many accomplishments, he was clearly a genius-level intellect and kept the company of other geniuses. Indeed, the foreword to Stalking the Wild Pendulum is written by William Tiller, who was professor of material science and engineering at Stanford, a prolific author, and pioneered the field of psychoenergetics. For a wild read, I highly recommend his book entitled Psychoenergetic Science, A Second Copernican Scale Revolution. Okay, with the stage set and the main players introduced, let's dig in to the CIA Gateway Report. First, let's talk about hypnosis. Based on the extant research at the time, McDonnell theorized hypnosis offers direct access to sensory motor cortex and pleasure centers and lower cerebral emotional portions and pleasure centers of the right side of the brain, following successful disengagement of the stimulus screening function of the left hemisphere of the brain. Recent fMRI studies indicate the brain seems to operate a bit more holistically than that, but the upshot is correct. Under hypnosis, rather than thinking about acting, you just act. The left is generally the self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning portion of the brain. It filters incoming stimuli by categorizing, assessing, and assigning meaning prior to allowing passage to the right hemisphere. And the right is generally the non-critical, holistic, non-verbal, and pattern-oriented side of the brain. It accepts what the left brain passes without question. If the left brain is distracted or in a semi-sleep state, external stimuli, including hypnotic suggestion, can pass through unchallenged to the right hemisphere, where they are accepted and acted upon directly. For instance, a suggestion that one is experiencing a general feeling of happiness will be referred to the pleasure centers, thereby inducing the feeling of euphoria. Similarly, suggestions that the subject enjoys enhanced concentration or recall might tap right hemisphere resources that are normally held in reserve as a result of left hemisphere command and control functionality. Next up is Transcendental Meditation, or TM for short. It was in vogue at the time of this report and has actually enjoyed a renaissance recently, similar to Hemisync in that respect. TM is known for engendering single-minded concentration, with a focus on drawing energy up the spinal cord. McDonald is basically describing the Kundalini experience, which he notes may require 5 years of meditation practice. At the same time, he cites Bentov, who states that acoustical vibrations in the 4 to 7 Hz range for protracted periods of time may achieve the same effect. File that information away for now. Not too much else needs to be said on this subject. Biofeedback. While hypnosis suppresses left brain, TM bypasses it. Now, biofeedback actually employs the self-cognitive function of the left brain to gain access to the right brain. It does this by teaching the left brain to first visualize the desired result and then to recognize the feelings associated with successfully achieving the result, as if it's already happened. This creates a neural pathway, which, once established, can be used by the left brain to repeatedly instruct the right brain in accessing the appropriate area. A neural pathway is simply made by connections between neurons, nerve cells, in the brain. When a behavior is performed, the connections between these cells change with the frequency of the behavior performed. These neural pathways are like grooves in the roadmaps of our brain. This phenomenon is also known as neuroplasticity. Applications can include blocking pain, enhanced healing, stimulating the pleasure centers, or a variety of other specific physiological results. This activity can be monitored by a feedback device. In McDonald's study, he used the example of a digital thermometer to take the temperature of the left leg in response to a stated intention of increasing the circulation in that limb. In short, biofeedback teaches the left brain to work in concert with the right brain to establish new neural pathways, which can be repeatedly used again and again. At this point, we would be remiss without talking about the man, the myth, the legend, the flying man himself, chiefly responsible for Gateway Experience, and by extension any reports or derivative creative works that build upon it, Robert Monroe, better known as Bob to those who knew him best. Bob was the rare individual who naturally went out of body, and he was determined to understand the phenomenon. His willingness to share his experience at a time when it was not at all mainstream, and his discoveries in the form of 3 books, his development of Hemisync, and founding of the institute that bears his name, made a major contribution to the field of human consciousness. Bob possessed some specific traits that made him an excellent explorer of consciousness. I would encourage all of you to consider these in your own journey of discovery and transformation. They are natural curiosity. Curiosity is really the flame for all inner work. A sense of adventure. As a young person, Bob hopped trains and lived as a hobo. Later, he acquired a pilot's license. Persistence and determination. Bob was courageous, which is necessary to explore unknowns in the service of turning them into knowns. He had a willingness to take risk and the ability to manage fear. Bob was born in 1915 and was active and adventuresome from an early age. He was a quick learner. When he started school just before his 5th birthday, he could already read and write. He later entered college just before turning 17. That might have been too early, as he had flunked out of college by the time he was 18. This was during the Depression, and it was around this time that he hopped boxcars for about a year, traveling to new places and interacting with many people from different walks of life. He then returned to college, where he started as pre-med and switched to engineering. When he returned, he studied journalism before graduating with a degree in English. His varied academic background contributed to Bob becoming a polymath, a skill that would serve him well later in life. I hope you'll enjoy this brief biographical video about Bob.
My father was a producer of radio shows in New York. I mean, he produced over 40 radio shows. And he did this in the 40s, late 40s, early 50s. In 1958, he had his first out-of-body experience.
Here I was, lying in bed, waiting for this vibration to stop so I could go to sleep. That's when I found myself bumping against the ceiling.
You know, here's this man that's a very successful businessman with no religious training or spiritual background, and he starts having these out-of-body experiences. And he started questioning, why me? Why is this happening to me? And so he looked to Western science to give him an answer for that. And because he was a producer of radio shows in New York, they were experts in sound.
Bob began to see a connection between sound-induced binaural beats and brainwave states that induce specific states of consciousness. The Hemisync sound patterns appear to create altered states of perception in contrast to the subject's normal waking state of consciousness. Some of the characteristics of these states were so commonly corroborated by his subjects that Bob began to label them Focus 10, Focus 12, Focus 15, and so on. The number assigned to the focus levels in no way indicates that one focus level is superior to another, though it is a common error for people to perceive it that way. In working with the Gateway Experience in-home training series, people learn to differentiate between focus levels and devise ways to make them useful in their own individual lives. Although this is a scientific explanation of the Hemisync technology, Bob himself knew that science alone could not fully explain what the Hemisync experience was all about. And after 50-plus years of developing the technology, Bob still remarked, "The only way to truly know is to find out for yourself."
We have means to let people know they are more than their physical body. And knowing you are more than your physical body is the beginning of knowing that you survived physical death. And knowing that is a tremendous relief.
Now, the Hemi-Sync which is employed in Gateway is a binaural beat-based technology which achieves the combined effects already discussed in Hypnosis, Transcendental Meditation, and BioFeedback. While binaural beats were a novelty in 1983, they are ubiquitous now. I want to emphasize here that while Hemisync is made of binaural beats are not necessarily Hemisync. The Hemisync technology is really a catalog of specific binaural beat combinations, or formulas, that are designed to facilitate specific states of consciousness. These combinations have been tested and researched over thousands of clinical hours for both efficacy and safety. Hemisync creates a coherent brainwave state where the right and left hemispheres of the brain are roughly equal with respect to amplitude and frequency. For more on how Hemisync actually works, please reference our introductory video on our YouTube channel and website. There are additional resources on our website as well. We tend to keep our claims pretty sober, but Commander McDonald goes on to state that Hemisync alters the subject's state of consciousness such that it moves outside the physical sphere, so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. What does it actually mean for you, though? The experience of this is to tap into your inner resources and various levels of intuitive knowledge, which actually belong to the universe at large, but also to you as an individuated node of consciousness. Now, what does Hemisync actually feel like, as a felt sense? Well, it can be likened to experiencing your consciousness as a focused beam of light, like a laser, as opposed to a lamp, which might diffuse its light around a room. While one might otherwise have these types of experiences in brief flashes, Hemisync allows you to sustain it for longer. People that are new to meditation will generally access deep states more readily, while experienced meditators will be able to sustain them for longer. Using gateway experience, you can then start to resonate at even higher vibrational levels. Now, the actual means by which Hemisync works is called frequency following response. And Bob Monroe was actually able to patent this. Here's a clip from our introductory video, which explains it in greater depth. Allow me to demonstrate. First, you will hear a tone in your right ear. Now, we will play a tone of a slightly different frequency in your left ear. The slight differences in the tones cause your brain to create a third sound, a wavering sound, that is not on the recording. This tone is the difference between the tones you are hearing in your right and left ears. These wavering sounds encourage your brain to move from functioning in a state of random brainwave activity, which looks like this, to a balanced, focused, and highly synchronized brainwave pattern, which looks like this. Let's talk now about some of the physical reactions you can expect in using Hemisync. Let's start with what can actually be measured. So in terms of your brain waves, we've already discussed how Hemisync makes your brain waves equivalent, both with regard to frequency and amplitude. And this can be observed on an EEG. So here is an image of what that might look like. You can also expect improved heart rate variability, which is a measure of your parasympathetic versus sympathetic response. So parasympathetic is more rest and digest. Sympathetic is more fight or flight. Your body's injecting itself with cortisol and adrenaline. It could be appropriate if you're running from a bear, but too much of it on a regular day in, day out basis is not good for you. Now, in terms of a felt sense, what is most characteristic of using Hemisync is being deeply relaxed, to the point where people who are using Hemisync for the first time realize that they have maybe never really been relaxed before, at least not while they were consciously aware. They might have thought that relaxed was kicking back on the couch, watching some TV, and that's not it. You're about to find out for yourself. Time to talk about energy entrainment. And this brings up the subject of oscillators and resonance systems. Oscillators are devices that move in periodic, repetitive fashion between 2 points. This can include human bodies, grandfather clocks, etc. So if you have 2 strings, you have an oscillating system, and they will tune to the same frequency. It's like if you pluck a string on a guitar, the other strings will vibrate in sympathy. That's called a resonance system. If you have a room full of grandfather clocks, and the pendulums are out of sync, they will eventually fall into sync within a day or 2. That's another example of a resonance system. McDonald posits that Hemisync basically turns you into an oscillator by entraining the body's coherent frequency with the surrounding electrostatic medium. In other words, by using the Earth's energy to enhance our own vibratory field. In Gateway, we offer a variety of consciousness tools, which we'll get more into in our next video with our first exercise. But among those are methods of raising energy and increasing our vibrational level, as previously stated. This allows our consciousness to ultimately move out into the surrounding field, free from the confines of our physical body. Let's actually do some Hemisync now. For the moment, we're going to fast forward through the CIA Gateway document to get to the good stuff, namely to section 28. While it's great to gain an intellectual understanding of this material, there is no substitute for direct experience. As Robert Monroe said, fear is the great limiting factor. The main barrier to understanding what we truly are, that we are more than our physical bodies, to again paraphrase Bob, is to systematically work with our fears and beliefs by turning unknowns into knowns. We do that by directly exploring consciousness ourselves, by becoming an explorer of consciousness. The gateway experience exercises begin with a preparatory process, or PrEP process for short, which will become very familiar as we go through this. This set of consciousness tools will help you to connect with, clear, increase, and control your own energy so that you can easily access expanded states of consciousness and explore your total self or higher self. These consciousness tools also have applications in your everyday waking life. Now, the PrEP process starts with surf sound. The sound of the ocean surf helps you to relax your mind and body. Bob Monroe felt that the sounds of this natural energy in motion would support you in connecting with your own energy. Next is the energy conversion box. You will create in your mind a box into which you will place anything which might distract you or keep you from getting the most out of an exercise. You can place in your box all of your concerns, worries, distracting thoughts, limitations, expectations. The ECB, which was the acronym for the energy conversion box, you'll find that Bob loved acronyms. The ECB helps you to quiet and open up your mind. If you can't see or feel your box, know that your intention has created it. It is there for you to use. Be creative with it. For instance, a computer might symbolize your work. Put that in the energy conversion box. Restraints or weights might represent limitations or things that are holding you back. Put those in the ECB. Next is resonant tuning. You can use intention, breath, and sound to increase, move, and balance the energy flow in your physical and energy bodies. This supports you in accessing and exploring expanded states of consciousness. In resonant tuning, you will breathe in fresh, vital energy into all parts of your body. Move it into your head. Allow it to swirl gently around in your head. And then exhale as if you were softly blowing out a candle. And vocalize a variety of different sounds. It could be ah, oh, etc. And pitches. Release any tired, stale energy through your feet. That works well. Feel the sounds resonate in your body. Experiment with it. Have fun. In these audio exercises, you'll hear resonant tuning sounds. You don't have to match that sound. They are simply placeholders to indicate when to do resonant tuning. There is no need to feel self-conscious and making noise while you're doing this. If you think this will be an issue for you, find a nice quiet place where you won't be disturbed or disturb anyone else. Resonant tuning is very effective in increasing your energy so that you can benefit as much as possible from each exercise. Finally, the affirmation. Affirmations help us quiet our minds and bring our attention and intention to what it is that we desire. Intention is a powerful consciousness tool that we will use throughout this workshop. The gateway affirmation is usually the final step in the PrEP process, but here in the first exercise, Bob does it before the resonant tuning. Throughout the track, and with most Hemisync exercises, you'll hear pink noise. It provides comfortable ambient noise that has the effect of filtering out things that distract you. Okay, it's time. Let's do Gateway Experience Track 1, Orientation. Find a nice quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Turn off your phone. Attend to any biological needs beforehand. In this 33-minute exercise, Bob Monroe himself will ask you to inhale fresh energy into your head while releasing stale energy. He will guide you into what is called Focus 3, a state of coherence, where the brain waves in the left and right hemispheres of your brain are equal with regard to both frequency and amplitude. Focus on any sensations you may have while experiencing Hemisync. Okay, have fun.